Hello, my name is Anthony Cossi, and this is my PE assessment. In this video, I'll be discussing the biomechanical principles of a particular volleyball skill. My chosen skill will be a serve. A serve is an act of putting the ball into play by striking it with your hand and sending it over the net to the opposition team. The serve is the first shot of every rally and is used to instigate the game. The goal of the serve is to put the opposing team on defense and prevent them from returning the ball efficiently. It is important to have a good serve because you can have an advantage by doing a powerful and accurate serve. I am at the associative learning stage of the serve. Associative learning stage is the second stage of learning, after cognitive, and is a type of learning when an individual learns to associate two or more stimuli events. This means I am starting to understand the basics and I am able to serve over the net most times, just not quickly or too accurately. I'll explain the two strengths and two weaknesses of my serving skills. I'll also be covering the joints, muscles, and bones involved in the serve. Strength 1. Projectile motion. One strength in my volleyball skill set is projectile motion. Projectile motion is the motion of an object that has been thrown, hit, or struck after the initial force that launches that object. I am at the associative learning stage of this skill. Projectile motion is affected by the influence of gravity. When an object is launched in the air, it follows a curved path which is called trajectory. The trajectory is determined by the initial velocity, angle, launch, and force of gravity acting upon the object. When the object is in motion, it experiences two types of motion, horizontal and vertical. This occurs in the execution phase. Execution is the final phase once you have contacted the ball with your hand. To properly execute a good serve, you must have the right speed, height, and angle of release. When I have thrown the ball up in the air to serve, I must make sure that I have the right height of release, which is ideally 1 foot above my head. When executing the serve, as I contact the ball, my elbow starts in flexion and goes through extension. The agonist muscle is the tricep because you are using the tricep when serving, and the agonist muscle is the bicep because after you complete the serve, you must use your biceps to bring your arm back to its return position of bent. The process does not work if your agonist and antagonist muscles do not work together. An elbow joint is a hinge joint. The hinge joint is a type of synovial joint that exists in the body and serves to allow motion primarily in one place. The hinge joint must be made up of two or more bones. The surrounding bones on the hinge joint are the radius, ulna, and are surrounded by the bicep, tricep, and the three heads of the deltoid, anterior, lateral, and posterior deltoid. My second strength is balance and stability. Balance is a person's ability to control their equilibrium in relation to gravity only, and stability is your body's ability to return to a desired position or trajectory after disturbance. Balance and stability is needed from the preparation phase to the execution phase. For balance and stability, I am at the autonomous learning stage. It is important to have good balance and stability because you need it from start to finish of a serve. I must use balance at the start to make sure I am firm, and I use balance at the start to make sure I'm firm and steady, and I need stability when I'm coming back down to make sure I land properly. My strength in balance and stability is my run-up. In the preparation phase, I need good balance and stability to make sure I don't fall over or tilt to one side, because this will cause an imbalance and will not result in an accurate serve. In the video on one side, because it will cause an imbalance. In the preparation phase, I make sure my feet are shoulder width apart because that creates more balance, and in the execution phase, I make sure I place my right hand behind my head and allow maximum flexion, but still stability. These steps need to occur to have a good balance and stability. The main joint for balance and stability is the knee joint. The knee joint is also a hinge joint. A hinge joint is a type of joint in the human body that allows movement in only one plane, similar to opening and closing a door. Like the elbow, it has two or more bones with a convex surface on one bone, fitting it into the convex surface of another bone. My first weakness is angle of release. The angle of release changes the relationship between the horizontal and vertical components of a projectile. The ideal angle of release is 45 degrees, assuming there is no wind resistance and the takeoff and landing points are the same height. In my video, the angle of release when I was serving the ball was incorrect. I should have struck the ball at a 45-degree angle, because this is the perfect angle of release. Instead, I struck the ball higher or a greater angle like 60 degrees. This was because in the preparation phase, I threw the ball slightly behind me, and that forced me to come around the ball and have a less productive serve and hit it slightly higher. If I had thrown the ball straight up at 90 degrees, a 45-degree angle would have been easier to hit. Also, the serve would have been more powerful. When serving, you use flexion, and the muscles surrounding the hinge joint are the deltoid and the bicep. Next time, I will make sure to throw the ball a bit further up and make sure it goes right above my head so I can strike it at a 45-degree angle. If I make a mistake or misthrow, I can simply catch the ball and take a rethrow. Make sure it's the right instead of rushing it. Things I can do to improve are having a proper grip on the ball before I serve or toss the ball. Toss the ball lower so it is easier to strike at the correct angle. The higher I toss the ball, the harder it is to figure out when to strike it. If I throw the ball too high, like I did in the video, I will have to focus more on timing and can't focus on other things. The ideal height is to throw it roughly a foot above my head. I must also make sure I hit the ball at the highest point of my jump. My second weakness is momentum. Momentum is the measurement of a motion or moving body measured as a product of its mass or velocity. My preparation phase when serving could have been better because I did not run into the ball fast enough, causing my serve to be weak and lacking momentum. This makes my serve weak because in force summation you must use all your muscles to execute a powerful serve, but however in the video I seem to primarily use the top half of my body, and this means the serve will be much less powerful. When I do my serve, I can be seen over-flexing and not extending my arm enough. This relates to momentum because I have to make sure my whole action is in sync to have maximum momentum. In my serve, the ball does go over the net but quite high up. That means it's easier for the opposite team to return the serve. This relates back to momentum because if I had a proper build-up and used momentum properly, I would have had a more powerful serve, making it harder for the opposition to return the serve. This is because in Newton's second law, it states that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to its mass. So the greater the force applied to an object, is the greater the acceleration will be. The joint that was a weakness for my skill was my elbow, which is a hinge joint, as I said before. The reason for this was because I did not put enough flexion into my serve. The bones surrounding the elbow are the radius and ulna. The agonist muscle was the tricep, and the antagonist muscle was the bicep. Next time when doing my serve, I will have a longer run up to properly execute proper momentum. I will also use extension more when hitting the ball, and I will make sure to jump at the right time and hit the ball with a flat hand or open palm. Some ways I could use better momentum in a serve is using my entire body to generate power, force summation, not just my arm, and start by positioning myself behind the line and make sure my feet are shoulder width apart when I toss the ball. I also need to focus on my arm swing. The motion of my arm is also very important for generating momentum in a serve. For example, I need to bring my arm further back and I need to make sure to keep my elbow high and that my wrist is firm, and allow through after making contact with the ball my arm and wrist to generate power. That's my bit, and thank you for listening.